Okay. Hi, good evening. My name's Ryan Bash, and I serve at Brookside Church. I appreciate the opportunity tonight to offer the invocation, so I invite you to pray with me now. Lord, we are indeed grateful to live in this city. We're so thankful for the opportunity that you've given each one here before me to lead, to guide, to steward, to seek out what you would have for your people here. Lord, I pray that in this city where there is division, that you would bring reconciliation. I pray that where there is brokenness, that you would bring healing. I know that these things that we ask for are perhaps a lot for one simple meeting, and yet, Lord, let it begin in this place, in this evening. I pray for each one who is here who carries this great responsibility. I thank you for these faithful stewards who have offered themselves to serve in this capacity. And I pray, Lord, that you would give them each wisdom, that you would grant them mercy and grace. Each day brings so much for each one of us, and perhaps everyone here in front of me, behind me, comes in facing challenges that the day has brought. But I pray, Lord, that you would give each one a renewed sense of hope and purpose for what you have them here to do tonight. So, Lord, again, grant wisdom, grant patience, and all these things we ask in the precious name of Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members, city officials, and our streaming audience. I would like to welcome everyone to the March 13th City Council meeting. We have 11 items on our agenda this evening. We're meeting here in chambers for public attendance and streaming live on YouTube. Moving forward, if you would, Ms. Moss, please continue with the roll call of the members.
Thank you, President Geringer. Greg Phillips.
Here.
Payne. Nickerson. Barnes.
Here.
Henderson.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Preston.
Here.
Anthony Phillips.
Here.
Prohl.
Here.
Do we have a motion to excuse Ms. Payne and Ms. Nickerson from tonight's meeting? I have a motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Mr. Greg Phillips. Roll call on the motion to excuse Ms. Payne and Ms. Nickerson.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Motion passes. At this time, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. The minutes of the previous meeting have been distributed for review. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes? And if not, do I have a motion to accept the minutes as they are? I have a motion from Ms. Henderson, seconded by Mr. Brown. Roll call on the motion to accept the minutes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
The minutes have been accepted. We'll now move to reports from our committees. We'll begin with the Community Affairs Committee, chaired by Mr. Greg Phillips.
On behalf of Community Affairs, and if it's okay, I'll do transit as well. Okay. And so with Community Affairs, we do have one agenda item on this evening. That is number 4. It is at a third and final read. It is the ordinance supporting the Chiillicothe Cat Project, appropriating $15,000 for the Trap, Neuter, and Return project, and declaring an emergency. That is all that Community Affairs has. And for transit, there is no pending legislation or anything on this evening's agenda, and so nothing to report for transit. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to our Human Resource Committee. In the absence of Ms. Payne, do any committee members have a report? Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Kathy wanted me to communicate. Human Resources has item number 8 on tonight's agenda. That's an ordinance establishing the pay scale for 2023 seasonal employees for the Department of the City of Chiillicothe. Human Resources assignment number 23-034. That subject matter is DRB appointments. She wanted me to let you know that there's going to be a committee meeting on Wednesday, March 22nd in council chambers at 6 p.m. And then for special committee assignment number 22-102, subject matter city council representation pertaining to Ohio Revised Code 705.72. That is the exploratory committee for ballot recommendation, reducing number of council members to align with Ohio Revised Code. She wanted me to announce a committee meeting for that assignment on Monday, March 27th in the council chambers at 6 p.m. That concludes the report.
Thank you. Moving now to the Development Committee. In the absence of Ms. Nickerson, do any members of that committee have a report? Next to the Finance Committee, Mr. Anthony Phillips.
Thanks, Council President. Finance just has one item on tonight's agenda. It is item number 2. It's a third reading, a resolution authorizing the auction of miscellaneous items, including city-owned vehicles and equipment which are not needed for public use or obsolete, or unfit for use for which they were acquired in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code Section 721.15. And Finance has had no other assignments or committee meetings in the last couple of weeks, and that's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Park and Recreation. Ms. Henderson.
Thank you, President Geringer. We have 3 items currently on the agenda tonight and one that we will need to add when the appropriate time comes. The first is item number 3, which is the third read of the donation of 27 Wade Street to be developed into a neighborhood park. The second is item 9, a first reading accepting and appropriating ODNR grant money for the Emerald Ash Borer grant that we received a while back and have successfully completed that program. At the appropriate time, I will ask to waive the 3 read on that. And then the final one is item 11, which is a first read for street closure for the Feast of the Flowering Moon. And then the item to be added is street closure for First Capital Rotary's First Thursdays, which does have emergency language on it due to a liquor license application deadline. And I will add that to the agenda at the appropriate time. A couple of quick announcements. This Saturday is the annual Leprechaun Chase 5K down in the park. Always a fun time. Lots of folks dressed up and having a lot of fun. And then next month we have Arbor Day and Earth Day coming up. And then I'd like to make an announcement for a committee meeting on Monday, March 27th at 6:30 p.m. for the following assignments. 23-042 for Yellow Day, 23-044 Makers Fair, 23-047 funds for floodlight replacement, and 23-049 prom mock crash. And that is all Parks and Rec has for tonight.
Thank you. Moving to Safety Service Committee. Ms. Preston.
Thank you. We had a safety service meeting this evening. We discussed 2 items. The first one was 23-039. It was in regards to the Wireless Emergency Notification Center. They're requesting to appropriate $2,074.95 to pay the annual subscription for the Wireless Emergency Notification Center. The other item that we discussed was 23-040. And this is in regards to pay increases for the emergency management director and his assistant. It's in conjunction with the Ross County Commissioners. They pay a portion of their salary as well. So those were both agreed upon in committee and will be on the next meeting's agenda. I also want to remind everybody about the Fish with the Firefighter that'll be in the park on April 15th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The first 100 people that register get free rods, reels, and bait. And they'll be serving donuts for breakfast and hot dogs at lunch from the hot doggery. So I just want to remind everybody that that event will be taking place, and we have nothing on the agenda this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, our Utilities and Engineering Committee with Mr. Prohl.
Utilities and Engineering has an item on tonight's agenda, item number 6, which is an ordinance reallocating funds appropriated for the chief building official's salary and declaring an emergency. At this time, I would ask that we please amend this to read 60 rather than 30,000. And the mayor and auditor will speak about this change, but since we currently do not have the chief building official, that is allowing us to make the change from 30 to 60.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll now move to reports of our officials. Our mayor, Mr. Luke Feeney.
Thank you, President Geringer. I'll touch on item 6 first, just take it out of order. So item 6 is taking money that's already been allocated for salary that we allocated in the annual budget at the beginning of the year for chief building official salary. We have had that job posted, I think I mentioned it at one of the previous meetings, for about 5 months now. Have come close, we thought, several times to hiring somebody, but have not been able to pull that off. So we need to essentially move the money from where it is in salaries to an outside contract line. And at the time we made this request, we were more optimistic than we are now that we would have that person hired. And so instead of coming back to council for a request, essentially, that I would make today in a committee assignment, I'd suggest that it's probably more efficient to just move more money now to that outside contract line. This is the line we use to pay. A chief building official is certified with the state of Ohio to do commercial building inspections and some other work. So right now, the Ross County Building Department does this work for us. And so my suggestion with that amendment is to essentially move more money from salary to outside contract. It's not an appropriation of any more money than was originally appropriated in the annual budget. Our internal finance policies require council approval to move between salary and operating. And if the auditor wants to touch on the same topic, I'd be happy for that to happen. And then I just want to go back and speak on a couple other items on the agenda. Item 1, the resolution adopting the comprehensive plan. I just want to take a moment and thank everybody who's involved in this. This goes back a couple years. Former Councilman Devin Shoemaker was integral in getting the original funding to lead it to this point. We have a couple planning folks that were a part of the comprehensive plan in the room. Just a neat process, something that is important for the community, and I certainly enjoyed being a part of it, and I hope that everybody else did too. I would ask for your support on item 1. And item 3, likewise, a feel-good project that I'd ask for your support on tonight. Same with item 4. Happy to be able to help the community with the cat issues. And then I have item 7 reference. The auditor and I were talking about this one. This is an amount of money that was appropriated and meant to be brought forward into the 2023 operating budget, and it just wasn't brought forward. This is an appropriation that goes into, I believe, the sewer department to do stormwater work. And if appropriate, I would, and it would be helpful, I would request that ordinance pass tonight with a waiver of the 3-read rule so that we can continue that stormwater work. So that was item 7 that I made that request. And then I'd like to support the councilwoman's request on item 9 for waiver tonight. That $50,000 that'll be reappropriated related to this grant money being reappropriated related to Emerald Ash Borer and the Tree Commission. As you all know, many trees down in the community, and we think that we might be able to reuse some of this grant money for some immediate work. It doesn't have emergency language in it, so if it were to pass tonight, it would still be 30 days before we would likely be able to start using it, but one that might be worth passing tonight. Concluding my comments on the agenda, just want to touch on a few other things. Councilwoman Nickerson has a committee assignment that's related to street closures. I know we've had a lot here lately, and I appreciate everybody's patience on those. The law director's been working on that with Councilwoman Nickerson. They have sent us a recent copy, and Teresa had some questions for us. So that's currently in front of Jeff and I to answer some questions, get it back to the councilwoman. I don't know if she'll go straight from committee or maybe just back to the law director, but I think that assignment is nearing its completion. And then 3 things from the operations side. One is the wastewater treatment facility project has been awarded. And that work that we appreciate council working through so much, very complicated project. The neatest thing about it, I think, in the spot that we're in now, is that we were looking at a 4% interest rate on more than $60 million. Our utilities department, in conjunction with Strand, the engineers, were able to put in so many portions of the project that got us credits or rebates or different types of treatment that they do, that it took the interest rate from 4% down to 1.6%, which is about as low as you can get right now, or lower than you can get right now. And so if you think about 30 years of interest at 4% versus 1.6, they saved the taxpayers a boatload of money. And so I'm really appreciative of that. And the construction company has already started moving stuff on site. So eager to get going. That is underway. More on the construction front. A couple years ago, the city purchased what we still refer to as the Pepsi building on 7th Street. It's a warehouse that, as a result of a facility study, this facility study proposed us building, at the time, a $10 million facility to consolidate our water, wastewater, service department, parks and rec, all into one facility. We bought the Pepsi building, and we were able to project out and design a project that, instead of $10 million, was going to be $2 million. That design work is just now completed, until last weekend, when a third of the roof blew off the Pepsi building. So we have been in contact with our insurance company, who has suggested that instead of it being a standalone project, that we have the same company who we've been doing our structural and design and engineering work with, that they just basically do the design work for the roof replacement on that section of the roof, and that it be included with the design work, and then it all go out to bid together, because there's savings in the scale, I suppose. But that was one of the more significant, some of the more significant damage to city building. I know there was a lot of damage throughout the city, and I'm very appreciative of the patience of the community as we cleared trees. And I think we were, most people came out fairly safe in terms of their persons, but I know property, there's quite a bit of damage. So thank you for your patience there. Finally, last night at the Majestic, our town, Chiillicothe, a PBS program, made its world premiere on the big screen. It was a pretty neat event, really nice production. That program airs tonight in broadcast form for the first time on WOUB at 8 o'clock, and then I believe it's again at 9 o'clock. A lot of familiar faces in the community. They did a really impressive job of covering about 2,000 years of history in an hour. Pretty neat feat, but definitely worth watching or recording. Gives you a lot of pride for the community. And with that, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you. Moving on to our auditor, Ms. Spetnagel.
Finance only has one item on the agenda, and that's item number 2. That's something that we do annually, so that way we can use, we can sell items online through an auction. And then item number 6, that's been already discussed. That's something that we have to come to council for, because there's 3 groupings. There's salary, fringes, and then there's operating and capital. Within those 3 items, we cannot move, so we always have to ask for permission. So that's why we're coming to council for that. And then item number 7, just waiving the 3 read rule. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Now moving to our law director, Ms. Villarreal.
Thank you. I'm losing my voice, so I'll be brief. We've done a lot of legislation requests, and we're working feverishly on everything else that's coming in.
Thank you. Now to audience participation, Council Rule 22 does limit each speaker to a 5-minute presentation, total limitation of 15 minutes per any single subject. If you get to the point where you're getting close to 1 minute left, I'll try to indicate to you to summarize your presentation. Anyone who wishes to speak, we do need for our records your name and address.
My name is John Thacker. I live at 990 Columbus Street, apartment 307 in Chiillicothe. I want to ask again if the City Council can televise the proceedings on Facebook, live streaming, as well as on YouTube. President Geringer mentioned to me after the last meeting that there is an expense that would be involved in retrofitting things. If someone wants to refer to the appropriate committee the amount that might entail, so that it could be processed as an appropriation, then I think that way you could reach more people with the live the live meeting, as well as any other committee meetings, which would be great if they could do that as well. I don't know if a referral has to come from either administration or from one of the council members, but I challenge you to find out how much it would cost and then proceed from there. Second, I would also like to point out that Friday is Transit Workers Appreciation Day. I may have a slight preference for the Chiillicothe transit workers to deliver me from point A to point B, and will later tonight at some point. They're also honoring people who, like Gary, who's at the Ross County Senior Center, who drives people to and from lunch at their facility, as well as all the other transit workers, private as well as public, even VIP taxi, which perhaps somebody has used. I get it free, so I don't have to go to VIP. But say thank you to them on Friday, if not before then. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David White. I live at 179 Church Street. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the geese. March 2nd, Parks and Recreation Director Bill Bonner announced that the city of Chiillicothe had entered into an agreement to, quote, provide deterrent methods to the Canadian geese in Chiillicothe Park. First off, I'd like to say I think those geese have as much right to be in the park as much as any people or other animals. They're part of the native flora and fauna, and I don't think that this is an appropriate use of Chiillicothe city funds. As migratory waterfowl, the Canadian geese are protected under multiple international treaties, including the Migratory Birds Convention Act of 1994, and should be afforded the same respect as any other animal that should be protected and given that consideration here within the city. I've attended Luke's meeting at the Armory where there was some discussion about the concerns people had about the geese and some description of the methods that the company that's been employed to provide this remediation or deterrent effect. And some of the claims and statements that have been made don't seem to be playing out in actual operation. The design of the program is to merely drive off the Canadian geese and not impact the other duck and geese population. But as we were there Saturday morning, we saw that there was a nest of about 12 eggs that one of the more exotic geese species down there had been driven off of in 33-degree weather, left that nest bare. Presumably, those eggs would have not survived through an extended period of time. It's not just the Canadian geese that are being adversely affected with this program of running a border collie to run off the animals and also letting off basically gunshots. Just hearing gunshots going off in Chiillicothe Park on Saturday morning, just hours after somebody had been shot in the park Friday evening, was jarring, and I don't think that was good optics, and I don't think it's a good policy, and can't expect it to be particularly effective. Will it require $40,000 every year to have this service come in to continue to run off the geese? We were back there on Sunday, and they were back. Maybe not every one of them, but there were plenty of geese back. I don't think it's, one, going to be effective. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's wise use of money. thought it was kind of surprising how it came about and was announced, basically as a fait accompli, that it's over, it's done with, this has been signed into, or this agreement has been entered into. So basically, I see it more of a human problem than a geese problem. The statement in the news release that when populations are not managed, geese can spread disease, force out, injure, and kill native wildlife. Well, when they are managed, that can happen as well. This management is intended, its whole purpose is to drive them off. And they are part of the native wildlife. And as such, I think that they should be afforded much more consideration. I think that the human problem and expectations of how the natural environment should behave is the issue, not the presence and existence of the native members of the geese population. Thanks.
We'll now move to old business. Does anyone have any old business that they would like to bring up this evening? I'm sorry.
Excuse my appearance. I just came in from the job site. Dan Heskett, 7311 Marietta Road. I was on behalf, we've been trying for over a year to get a project on Piley's Lane, Countryside Meadows approved. We went for the final read in December of this year. They did not have a quorum then. They forgot to put it on the agenda in January. They forgot to again put it on agenda in February. And then when I asked them what was going on, they said they'd have it in March. And then they said they'd have it to council tonight and have it approved. I even got a text from Debbie Engelman today. She said the clerk was going to be picking it up tomorrow so we could take it to proceed. And then I got an email from the president today that the person was ill and that this has been postponed another couple weeks. This is literally costing us thousands of dollars. We may lose some contracts on it due to the timing of this. And I asked council to approve it tonight and go ahead and sign off on it so we don't continue to lose many thousands of dollars. If you have any questions, I can answer. Thank you.
Mr. Haskett, the assignment for that request came in on Thursday, I believe. I was saying the assignment on that came in on Thursday, the 9th. It's been assigned, but no legislation has been written. All legislation requests for that to be written need to be in prior to the Thursday of the week before. So it understood.
Like I said, it looks like we're going to they have to close it. And by the fact not being recorded, we're trying to do something to help the city.
Understood. We will now move to old. Oh. We will now move to old business. Does anyone have any old business they would like to bring up this evening? Not seeing any participation in correspondence received by the clerk.
Thank you, President Geringer. I have received 2 pieces of correspondence. The first is a liquor license request from Family Dollar Stores of Ohio, LLC, doing business as Family Dollar Store, number 27863 1688 Western Avenue, Chiillicothe, Ohio, 45601. If no one has any issues with that, I'll get it signed and sent back. The next item I received was an email from a Mr. Zach Smith concerning noise ordinance enforcement at 845 Cliffside Drive. He said he's been in contact with the police department and he is just wanting council to look into the enforcement of the noise ordinance from the Ohio Revised Code.
Now moving to new business. Does anyone have anything new that they'd like to bring up at this time?
President Garinger, at this time, I would like to move that we amend the agenda to add item 12, which would be a resolution expressing cooperation and granting the use of a certain portion of 2nd Street to First Capital Rotary for its first Thursday Taste of Chiillicothe events and declaring an emergency.
Motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Mr. Brown to amend the agenda and add item number 12. Roll call on the motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
and Pearl.
Yes.
President Garinger, at this time, I'd also like to move that we waive the 3-day receipt rule on this piece of legislation.
Motion passes, and motion made by Ms. Henderson to waive the 3-day receipt rule, seconded by Mr. Greg Phillips. Roll call on that motion.
Preston,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
The motion passes. From there, we'll move on to our legislation. We have 12 items on the agenda this evening. Oh, sorry, Mr. Prohl.
Sorry. I also want to ask that we amend item number 6 before we take any vote on it, to change the amount from $30,000 to $60,000 as requested by the mayor.
Motion to amend that item by Mr. Prohl, seconded by Ms. Preston. Roll call on the motion.
Barnes,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
That motion passes. Any additional items? Not seeing any, we'll move to our legislation. We have 12 items on the agenda this evening. Ms. Moss, whenever you're ready, we'll start with item number 1.
Thank you, President Garinger. Item number 1 is a third reading of a resolution adopting the Chiillicothe Comprehensive Plan.
Roll call on that resolution.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
The resolution passes. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is the third reading of a resolution authorizing the auction of miscellaneous items, including city-owned vehicles and equipment, which are not needed for public use or are obsolete or unfit for the use for which they were acquired, in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 721.15.
Roll call on the resolution.
Barnes,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
That resolution passes. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is a third reading of an ordinance accepting the donation of property located at 27 Wade Street and 4th Street with the intention of the property being developed into a neighborhood park.
Roll call on that ordinance.
Henderson,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
That ordinance passes. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is the third reading of an ordinance supporting the Chiillicothe Cat Project, appropriating $15,000 for its TNR, Trap Neuter Return Project, and declaring an emergency.
Roll call on the ordinance.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is the second reading of a resolution authorizing the appropriate city officials to apply for and enter into an agreement with the Ohio Public Works Commission Grant Funds Program for the year 2024, accepting grant funds if awarded and declaring an emergency.
That item will move to our next agenda, item number 6.
Item number 6 is the second reading of an ordinance reallocating funds appropriated for the chief building official's salary and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Prohl?
At this time, I would ask that we please waive the 3-read rule.
Motion by Mr. Prohl, seconded by Mr. Brown. Roll call on the motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Brown,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is the second reading of an ordinance reappropriating funds that were approved and appropriated in the 2022 budget and not yet spent or encumbered at the end of 2022 and declaring an emergency.
That item will move to our next agenda. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is the second reading of an ordinance establishing the pay scale for part-time summer and fall seasonal employees within the Parks and Recreation, Swimming Pool, Service, Engineering, Administration, and Utilities departments of the City of Chiillicothe for calendar year 2023.
That item will move to our next agenda. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is the first reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $50,000 received from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources as a reimbursement following the successful completion of the ODNR Emerald Ash Borer Grant that was awarded in 2019.
President Geringer, at this time, I'd like to make a motion. We waive the 3-read rule.
Motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Mr. Greg Phillips. Roll call on the motion.
Henderson,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the ordinance.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Item number 10.
Item number 10 is the first reading of a resolution expressing cooperation and granting use of a certain portion of Paint Street to downtown Chiillicothe for its Downtown Chiillicothe Brewfest.
That item will move to our next agenda. Item number 11.
Item number 11 is the first reading of a resolution granting use of the city park and surrounding streets from Thursday, May 25th, 2023 at 8 a.m. through Monday, May 29th, 2023 at 11 a.m. for preparation, operation, and cleanup of the annual Feast of the Flowering Moon and Memorial Day Parade, and providing for coordination of the events with the City Parks and Recreation Department.
That item will move to our next agenda, item number 12.
Item number 12 is the first reading of a resolution expressing cooperation and granting use of a certain portion of 2nd Street to First Capital Rotary for its First Thursday Taste of Chiillicothe events and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer, I make a motion we waive the 3-read rule.
Motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Mr. Prohl. Roll call on that motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the resolution.
Brown,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
The resolution passes. Are there any additional items that anyone needs to bring up at this time? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Oh. Thank you. Perfect. Any additional items? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Motion by Mr. Brown, seconded by Mr. Phillips. Roll call on the motion to adjourn.
Preston,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Have a wonderful evening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no problem.